there have been dApps, decentralized applications, games that have launched that have sold several $1 million worth of NFTs. But as I said, there's been no secondary market volume or very little, which means it's not sustainable. I think we will see, now this is one data point, but if we do this 6 times and the secondary market is thriving, then I think we've hit on something very, very important.
I like the idea. I didn't realize the fact that the author, like the royalties, carries on. That's very attractive for the original producer of the cards, the licensee. Very attractive.
Everybody likes passive recurring income. Right?
I want my novels to all sell like hotcakes and just retire.
And as a guy who used to be, a royalty accountant, right? So it's like, I can tell you there's the geeky part of this, which is this. Normally, you give the rights to somebody. So you might be A.A. Milne family, who A.A. Milne created Winnie the Pooh. Yeah. You give it to Disney. Disney says, we're going to go create all this great Disney merchandise around Winnie the Pooh, and you're going to get 5, 8, 10%, whatever it is. I use that example because the A.A. Milne family wound up suing Disney, and the lawsuit lasted over 20 years. And the reason was they felt like they weren't being treated fairly. I don't know for sure, but I thought it kind of seemed like Disney was not always paying them. And the problem is this. You have to rely every quarter on Disney saying, okay, we've summed up all of the merchandise that we sold around the world. We sold $100 million of Winnie the Pooh. Here's your $8 million check. Or we sold $10 million Winnie the Pooh. How in the world are you going to audit that? Like it's impractical. And maybe if you're doing tens of millions, you could afford to hire an auditing firm. But if you're a photographer who's just really good and you make a living with photography, selling images on Getty Images or Shutterstock or whatever, there's really no way for you to know if you're being properly paid or not. What is so cool about the blockchain, of course, is it's transparent. And as a result, you can see every transaction. So there's no guessing. And even better, every time a transaction occurs, what happens? A few coins drop into your blockchain wallet. So you're literally collecting the royalties in real time. Wow. That has never been possible in the traditional world. So it's what makes blockchain-based intellectual property management so appealing. We just need to perfect the business model aspect of it. But I
have to figure out how to put my books on the blockchain then. Forget. Who knows? Yeah. Think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Any digital asset that is that people might want to trade, they might want to possess, apart from just the authenticity thing, which is remarkable in itself, there is no other thing that I'm aware of on the planet Earth that self-identifies as genuine. I mean, people always say to me, well, why can't I just give somebody gold? Isn't that like Bitcoin? And I'm like, I don't have a gold assay testing lab in my pocket. I have no idea if your gold is gold or it's lead colored gold.
Don't you bite it?
There you go. Maybe if I bid a lot of coins. So this is kind of an unsung aspect of blockchain that's really powerful.
Very interesting.
The fact that it essentially identifies itself as real, right? When I send somebody a Bitcoin, as long as they've got a Bitcoin wallet, when that thing appears, there is no question that it's truly a Bitcoin, right? You get a couple of confirmations, it's a real transaction. These elements of a blockchain are going to be very important with collectors because I'll tell you, if you're on eBay and you're buying sports memorabilia or trading cards or even sneakers, these things are flooded with counterfeits. Flooded. And, it's all based on your eye. Even no less notable an institution than the Getty Museum, the richest museum in the world. They routinely buy counterfeit antiquities because you don't know. right? Is it the real statue or not? It's often hard to tell. So in the digital realm on blockchain, we can ensure that's never the case. Yeah, I'd like sports memorabilia is another really good area, I think, for us.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay, I'm going to ask you 4 quick fire questions to conclude the interview. And it's based on your mum's rules, Quigley's rules, which basically said that when the news hits, you cannot tell at the time whether it's good or bad. Okay, so asking you then, looking back on your career, not that you haven't, look forward as well, looking back on your career, what was your best move?
My best move was being just captivated by the internet. And I can even tell you when I was captivated. It was when somebody sent me an image. And of course, it's hard for people substantially younger than me to appreciate this, but we thought of computers as isolated devices. You could put a CD-ROM in it and play something, but the notion of it being connected was really like my neurons were firing back and forth. And then it became, well, how can I get in? How can I like dedicate myself to this? And fortunately, I teamed up with some guys who were building an incubator, the first incubator really of the first internet incubator called Idea Lab. And just being sort of looking out there, I was doing my thing at Disney, pretty happy, but saying this is where business models are going to get disrupted. This is where new ways of consumers doing things is going to happen. And that was a remarkable run for us.
This is where the hustle is.
Yeah.
Okay. What has been your dodgiest move?
Dodgiest move? Oh, man. So many. You could call it in the early 90s, selling a bunch of property that I had acquired in the late 80s at rock bottom prices because I looked at it and I said, well, I paid this, it's 3 times higher, without really thinking, yeah, but the intrinsic value is 10 times higher than that. So that became a bit of a rule for me. Winning trades, stay invested in. And yeah, I've done a few of those where I've gotten off the escalator prematurely when I thought, oh, it's all over now. And it hadn't even begun. Okay, and by the way, that's a lesson to entrepreneurs everywhere. You'll often hear people in crypto, well, in everything, am I too late? And I always say, you're never too late, because it's like the guy who just published the 1000th Churchill biography. It's like, well, doesn't he wish he was the first guy? No, because, as time passes, you see things differently. So, a travel site, the best travel site of the 90s, Priceline, right? Pick your price, go in, bid for a hotel, was remarkable. You would have thought, well, then that travel opportunity is done. Well, then Airbnb comes 15 years later. And so, yeah, if you hear yourself saying, I'm too late, you may very well be too early.
Wrap the knuckles. Okay. What move do you wish you had made in your career that you didn't do?
Well, in the crypto side of things, I'm annoyed at one thing that my partners and I did not do. And that is, we had acquired Mt. Gox after it collapsed. We did not think we could relaunch Mt. Gox in the name Mt. Gox because we thought it was tainted. I mean, now that's such a silly idea. But, if you have an exchange and it's just lost, a third of everybody's holdings, the one thing an exchange shouldn't do is lose the people's principal. We figured that name was tainted. How could we have known that it turned out, from that point on, exchanges routinely get hacked, and if anything, their business grows? And so we didn't immediately try to turn on Mt. Gox, and instead what we tried to do was, we built an exchange. And guess what happened? I did not authorize it to be released. And the reason was I could not get comfortable with the regulatory climate that this would be okay. And this annoys me because it turned out it was gray. No one knew, right? If you didn't, you just couldn't figure it out. But most other guys said, "The heck with it. You know what? It's not explicitly, not allowed. So let's just do it." And we've been running marketplaces for 20 years. We know how to do this stuff. So, and now I'm going to go and do the thing I told you not to do. But I've said to my team, I think it's too late. And
maybe it's not.
And maybe it's not. The exchanges have become much better. Like when we were doing it, the exchanges were still nascent. There were very few. But in 2017, 2018, even part of 2019, it was so frustrating. They were so poorly managed. They didn't understand customer convenience and customer service. I would say they're getting much better. So, but at this point, that's probably one of my biggest shoots.
It's a good one. It's a good one. Didn't expect that one. Okay, what's your next move?
Well, I think so. The whole concept of crypto, I've said this many times. I'm going to be in crypto until I retire. The area where I find the most interest is in this where three forces collide. It's blockchain, e-commerce, and then trading, collecting and trading. In that nexus, I think there is massive opportunity. More and more of what we consider our possessions, what we consider our stores of value, will be moved to a digital place. And the more that happens, the more I think blockchain is going to be looked upon as a good place to do it. And so looking at, as part of Magnetic Capital, the fund, we incubate a lot. We're particularly interested in unlocking the power of brands and moving those brands onto blockchain. So over the next probably 5 years, that's where I'll be focused. I would like to try to draw on what's been done in deep learning, because I think there's so many things that a great deep learning model could help us accelerate what we want to do. You talked about something a few minutes ago, fraud. A fraud, either payment fraud, theft, digital theft. Those things are still rampant. And we're constantly figuring out new tricks bad guys are doing. And I'd like to be able to apply some really practical deep learning models to try to help accelerate our ability to address those problems. But I'm still not ready to do that because it's the models aren't great. I mean, maybe if you have Google scale, but at our scale, we still haven't reached the point where I feel like, okay, these are going to be helpful. So that's next. Keep looking out for it.
Yeah, that's cool. So you're staying in crypto?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
more so than ever, I would say. It's never been more attractive.
If you look at the returns of crypto, whether it's 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, I mean, they trounce all other major traded assets. And what a blockchain can do. We had this lull period from like 2000 and call it 16, when Ethereum people started to really learn about it, to 2019, where a lot of us were building, but you weren't seeing a lot. And a lot of what came before that was the infrastructure layer, which the first generation crypto people said, okay, we built it, it's here. But no. Now you need the interfaces so that real companies and people can actually exploit the value of the blockchain. That's the next couple of years. It's user interfaces that make this much easier. And that's a big part of what we're focused on, because it makes it more convenient. If it's more convenient, more people
I was
will
going to
embrace
say
it.
convenience. That's the word from this conversation. Convenience. Make it convenient. It'll happen.
Yeah, true.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been fascinating. And I can't wait. Maybe we won't wait 2 years before you catch up again for the
Yeah.
next update.
2 years would be a cool time frame.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.